Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dr. Cammy and Karen Go Keto. Today we have an interesting topic of Cammy binged. And so we're going to do an anatomy of her binge and see what triggers her and see what the pattern is so that we can support her in not binging again. I know you probably just saw her earlier video where she avoided a binge. And so Cammy might bring some of that up also. So Cammy, I'm going to throw it over to you, and we're just going to intersperse this with questions and your answers. And also, this is probably going to be one of our longer videos, just so you guys know, because we haven't talked about this binge.
Okay, well, hi everybody. Thank you so much, Karen. I wanted to start initially by saying that I hope this helps some people. Just talking about this, we're hoping that it helps some people who struggle with binge eating and, dealing with their feelings and emotions in an unhealthy way at times. So I had gotten on the scale in the morning because I was feeling like I was a little heavier. And I thought, well, maybe it's just a couple of pounds. And I got on the scale, which I have henceforth thrown away the scale, finally, to Karen's delight. This was a hard thing
That's
for
for
me to
sure.
do, to get rid of the scale, and we're going to do a separate video on that. But before I got rid of it, I stepped on the scale and it had said 240, and then it said 247. And so I was very shocked about this. I thought it would say maybe 242, and I'm actually very good at guessing what the scale is going to say. So I was really feeling bad about that. And I went ahead and got dressed. I went to my gym class, and I had switched my shirts from XXL to XL because I'm coming down in size. And when I got to the gym and I was doing my class, and he has these big mirrors there, I looked bigger. I looked fatter because I had a tighter shirt on. And I knew that. And as I'm in front of the mirror, I said, well, yeah, you're going to see things closer because your shirt is tighter. But it still really caused me, I think the word that I would use is discouragement. I was very discouraged. And then, so the third thing that happened, and this all happened in a pretty close amount of time, was that a good girlfriend of mine got out of the hospital from a major back surgery. And I got on the phone with her, and we talked about me making some meals and helping her when she got out. And she wanted me to make her some lasagna. So lasagna is not my favorite meal to make because it involves a lot of work and all the different layers you have to do. And I was also going to have to go shopping to get food the day before Thanksgiving. So I had made the commitment to go ahead and help her. So I said, okay, fine. But I had a little resentment about going on the day before Thanksgiving and making this meal. I did call her later that day and told her that I'm not going to be able to get it done that day, and I brought it over the next day. But for me, it's always a trifecta. I have figured this out. It's almost always three things that happen. So the scale, and then seeing myself in front of the mirror, and then having this little resentment about making this lasagna tipped me over the edge, and I just couldn't handle in a healthy way my response to all of that situation.
So a couple of things that come to mind when you say this is one thing is you talk about the trifecta and that there are three strikes kind of and you're out kind of thing. And there is a theory out there, and I don't remember where I've heard this or what realm I've heard this in, but it is that we have a limited amount of willpower that we can exercise. And so that's probably what you are experiencing is like the first thing that you actually you have to exercise your willpower, you can get through, and even a second time. But when it comes to the third time, it's just hard to exercise willpower for you. And it might also depend on what time of day it is, and the, what the order is of things that happen as well. And what's your feeling, Cammy, on the trifecta of the binge that you avoided the other day?
So you're right, Karen. There's a lot of things that go into it. And, a lot of, there's all these different factors like, am I hungry or not? Am I hydrated or not? rested or not. I've noticed that that all plays into it too. Um, and so the other day, what I was able to do to avoid that binge was to talk myself through with a lot of positive self-talk. And I've noticed that as these things come up in my life, like my last binge was October 24th, and now this one, which was November 23rd, okay, November 22nd. So it had been almost a month. So I noticed that in the meantime, what I've been able to do is when these things come up, and I generally feel them first, I can feel it in my body, like in my solar plexus, just a little bit of discomfort there. Like, oh, I look fat in the mirror, I'll feel it and I'll hear the voice say that. I'm able to say, I'm able to like look at the reality of it and talk myself through it and just in my mind say, Cammy, you switch to a smaller shirt. This is why it's looking like it's more. And if you had your bigger shirt on, you wouldn't see it. And, talk myself through it. And I think that with that binge that I avoided, I had done enough self-talk that was positive to the point where I was able when I was going with my keys to get into the car and open the garage door to just say, no, you don't need to go do this. This is not something that's going to benefit you. It's not something that's going to create more positive self-talk in your system. So let's just not do that and go do something else that we need to do, maybe lay down and rest. I think that's what I did after that, was go upstairs and just rest for a few minutes and create something that's going to create more positive self-talk.
All right. So you usually, when we've discussed your binges in the past, they usually have a pattern besides having 3 triggers that, finally get to you. Oh, by the way, I do want to say thank you for throwing away that scale. We will post that. We will post that video. Because that scale has never been your friend, but we'll discuss that at another time. Um, what what did the binge how did the binge occur? What did it look like? What did you eat? Where did you go? Because you just said last time you got the keys in your hand and you were getting into your car and you realized, no, stop. So clearly you were not going to binge just on stuff that you had in the house. So tell me a little about, and tell everybody else a little about what it looked like. What did you eat? Where did you go?
Okay.
How did you come across it? And if you can, when you think about it, tell us what your not so much what your analysis of it is now, but if you can, share with us what was going through your head at the time.
Okay. So I don't actually remember the sequence of events of where I went first and what I bought first. I think I went first to the shopping store, and I got ice cream and I got bread. A lot of carby foods is what I eat when I binge. I got bread and some cookies. And then as I was eating those, I ate those on the way over to Jack in the Box and got a jumbo jack sandwich and was combo meal with a Diet Coke, which is another big trigger for me, and went and ate that in the car and then on the way home. And then I got home and I finished eating that food. And then I went out later and I got donuts and milk when I was out getting my nails done. And I do have to say, oh, and the first thing that I ate when I got a little banana cream pie that was individual size, and I ate that as soon as I got into the car in the Vaughn's parking lot because it's a sense of relief. I need to feel relief. And it reminds me very much of, I relate like when people are cutting themselves, because I feel a sense of relief as soon as I get some sugar or carbs into my system. And the banana cake was not even good. It didn't taste rich. It didn't taste, it was just full of sugar. And so I didn't finish that. And then later on, when I ate the donuts, they weren't fresh. So I didn't finish some of that too. So but I can tell that it's sugar that I really need to get into my system. And I don't tend to remember very well my binges and how the order of events are unless I write it down right away, which this binge, I did not write it down right away. I wrote it the next day, the food that I ate. But I did get home with a baguette, a sourdough baguette, and ate the bread with butter and then ate the bread with cheese in it too. And then I don't remember. Did you ask me something else?
Yeah, do you remember any thoughts like when you bought the banana cream cake and when you bought um the ice cream and the cookies and when you got through the drive-through? I mean, when you go to the drive-through, at least here, you usually wait in line. So were there any thoughts like, "Oh, I really shouldn't be doing this," or "I'm gonna do this," or and when was the decision made to go? Because 'Cause I'm pretty sure if you think about, did it start when you were leaving the gym? Did you get home first and then go back into your car?
Um, no, it didn't start when I was leaving the gym. It started later that day because I went to the grocery store. After the gym, I went to the grocery store and bought all the things I needed to make the lasagna with, and I did not buy binge items at that time. And then I came home and um, went I didn't make it right away. I can't remember what I did in the meantime. See, this is really interesting because I don't have a good recollection once I get going down that pathway. And I think it's because I choose not to remember a lot of what happens at that time. I don't want to listen. I don't want to hear myself. I don't want to know what's going on. I just need relief. I need to get it, and I need to get it fast. And I don't remember a lot of thoughts that I had. I mean, I'm sure I had thoughts of, this is bad. I shouldn't be, this is not healthy for me. I don't like to use the words bad or good. This is not healthy for me. This is something I shouldn't, there's a word shouldn't that's, not going to benefit me in any way physically. But, I think that emotionally it gives me relief. And so this is why, I'm not doing it nearly so often because I'm figuring out ways how to get better emotional relief.
So, you've told me in the past that these binges, when you hit the peak of the binge and you're done eating, you really check out and then you go through food coma. Did that happen this time?
Yes, I did have to take a nap. Um, Usually after I eat that kind of food, I need to take a nap. And at this stage, at this binge, it was nighttime, so I just went to bed, and that was part of my nap. But if it's during the day, I have to lay down and sleep for at least an hour. If I have to get up and do other things, I have to sleep, and because I get into that, comatose drop after that sugar.
And when you say that you have to sleep, do you is that does it go away then? Do you feel like you're not going to binge after you wake up, or is it 50-50? Sometimes you binge more, or is it usually over?
That's a great question, Karen. And usually what happens is that it's over, although not always. Um, I've noticed that it's as they've become further apart, they tend to be over a little bit more. But this binge did continue into the next day, where I was eating still sugary items and things that had a lot of carbs in them. I was not on my low carb lifestyle the next day. So
But the next day was Thanksgiving, right?
Right, and I did eat some sugar at Thanksgiving. I ate chocolate cake at dinner, and I finished off the bread with cheese in the morning before I went to Thanksgiving dinner. So I was eating bread and sweets, and I didn't eat
So
rolls at dinner because they didn't have rolls at dinner, but they had mashed potatoes. I ate that. I ate pretty much all my food. Yeah.
so the purpose, one of the purposes of our channel is for accountability, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
um, so you said you had this binge because the accountability is really for ourselves, right? It's to say, hey, I did not, I'm committed to a low carb lifestyle, I think. I mean, I still am not, I mean, I am committed for me personally, but I still have my chocolate malts. I didn't have one yesterday, but I had the one the day before. Probably, I don't know when that was. Yes, no, I had it on Wednesday also. So we must not have talked on Wednesday, but we did at some point because I asked you what you were going to eat at Thanksgiving, and you did not say that you had had the binge. Maybe we talked in the morning. Um, so at any rate, I can definitely feel these chocolate malts for me do not work. I don't consider it a binge, but I definitely consider it not low carb and not supportive of a low carb lifestyle. So for your for your Thanksgiving day, I did ask you what was your plan for Thanksgiving, and you said maybe a couple of bites of mashed potatoes, and then you said maybe some cake or something because you went out to a restaurant for Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
And I asked you, well, what does Jeff Cotterman think about having that, cake at the end or the dessert at the end? And you said, oh, probably not on my plan. Do you remember that conversation?
I do. Yeah, and it was Mike Collins, not Jeff.
Oh, Mike Collins. That's
Yeah,
right.
Mike
It's Mike Collins.
Collins, who's the sugar
Yeah,
addiction
the sugar
coach.
addiction
Yes.
coach. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what else did you have? Did you have anything else besides the bread and the cheese and the cake and the mashed potatoes that were not low carb on Thursday, Thanksgiving?
I don't think so. I didn't write in my diary. I did eat something before we went because I think that was the morning that I ate I ate the bread and the cheese. No, I don't think there was anything else. I ate bread and cheese, and it was a lot
Hmm.
before I went, and then that's what ate when I was there. And then because it was my sister's birthday, so we had brought chocolate cake. So I ate a little bit of the chocolate cake, but then we also got dessert. And I took the dessert home. I was going to bring it home, but instead I brought it over to my girlfriend's house and gave it to her.
Okay. And that was Thursday. And how were you on Friday?
Excuse me. Friday I did okay. I didn't eat sugar or anything high carbs, but I probably ate more in volume than I should. And the one thing I did eat was some yogurt. I try to really watch the yogurt because there's carbs in there. And I ate a very small dish of yogurt with some blueberries on top and some walnuts. So Friday I did well.
And
And
then
then by
today?
Saturday I was back on track,
Today's Saturday,
which is
right?
today.
Okay. So so you have a couple of things going on in your life. You have your Mike Collins sugar addiction coaching that you're taking on and you're doing, I mean, that's a big project. And then you are working with Jeff Cotterman, and he's doing meal plans for you, and he's doing major exercise routines for you. So you've got support, you've got things that you're up to that totally contradict this binging behavior, right?
Yes.
And the binging behavior, what's your feeling when I say that to you? What comes up for you when I say, well, what about Mike Collins and Jeff Cotterman, and not to mention our channel?
Well, I think what comes up for me is that sometimes I don't utilize those support systems as best as I can. There are sugar support meetings that I've been going to. I could go to more. Um, I sometimes feel like I take the easy way out, and I just don't want to have to be accountable for certain things along the way. Sometimes it has to do with feelings of self-worth and self-esteem. I still deal and struggle with that, although on a much smaller level than I used to. And um, the other thing that I think about is how my last binge was a month ago, and so I think that that has been some progress for me. And I'm hoping and praying, and my guess is that these will space out farther and farther, and because I do see myself in a future where I can use those positive self talk to get me out of these things, or to make it where it's not necessarily a binge. It would just be falling off plan.
Right. So and I'm assuming that when you say a binge, it's because of the feelings that go through the whole behavioral process, right? It's not like just having, okay, I just had some bread and cheese. It's it's that there's something that's compelling you that is unidentified.
Well, usually I would say that, usually I identify what it is that sends me on the binge, because I'm learning now what my triggers are. But it's a feeling of overwhelm, and I get very overwhelmed, and then it just seems like it takes an enormous amount of food to get me to where I don't feel so overwhelmed. And so that's what I'm thinking is going to change, is the level of overwhelm that comes with it. I'll be able to handle that better, and there'll be less overwhelm because I'm dealing with things in a healthy way before the binge comes. And then therefore it won't be a full on binge. It might just be, a cookie or something.
Yeah. So earlier in the conversation, you said um, you the banana cream cake did not give you the relief that you were looking for. This is Wednesday afternoon, right? You've got Is there a recap in the day? Because I think that from what I know of you for the decades that I've known you, I think that there's something underlying when you say overwhelm and you say you need relief. Okay, so let's say you're needing the relief from the overwhelm. But what is it that's actually overwhelming you, especially in this instance?
Well, that's a hard question for me to answer. I think that some of it has to do with me being impatient, because I don't want my weight loss efforts and, you know, to take as much time as it's taking. And, when you think of a lifestyle, you're thinking of your life, and that is the mindset that I have. But some of it is impatience on with me and how I'm going through life. And some of it also has to do, I think, with just feeling low self-esteem and low self-worth.
So I would ask then, what was it that caused you to have the low self-esteem and the low self-worth that day?
Well, when I got on the scale and I had gained weight, and when I saw myself in the mirror, those just were I was so heartbroken to see that 247 on the scale, because I had been working hard, and I had been doing my plans, I had been doing everything the way I was supposed to be doing, and I had gained 7 pounds. So that was very frustrating. And ironically, later that night, after I had eaten all this food, I got back on the scale and weighed 246.
Yeah. That's not ironic. That is just that's science, Cammy. That's why I keep telling you throw the scale away
And that's why I did.
and stick to the plan, because if you stick to the plan, the numbers, it's not that the numbers lie, it's just that the numbers tell us things that uh, we can't actually process them the way our body processes them, right? So who knows why you weighed 247? Maybe it was, you know, water weight. Maybe you had to go to the bathroom and you just had to go to the bathroom, like, instead of going to the bathroom before you got on the scale, you went out, you should have gone after, and maybe there was a pound there. Who knows? Um, And I wouldn't be surprised if you're 248 today, right? Because even though you're back on your plan, you had two mega days
Mm-hmm.
where where you weren't on plan. So say you say you were devastated by the 247. Okay. So I have a couple of things that come up for me wanting to know from you. Um, I totally get how being where you are in your journey, that would devastate you because you feel like you've been doing everything right and this appears to be wrong. And so I would call that your failure to accept. And that is why I've said all along, get rid of the scale, because that's the one thing you accept. Like, you accept as gospel that what that scale is telling you is something of value to you.
Mm-hmm.
And there was but there's something underneath all of this though, Cammy, because that was on Wednesday. And first of all, you don't weigh yourself except for on Fridays and maybe on Sundays. So why is it that you were weighing yourself on a Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
The reason I got on the scale was because I could tell by looking at myself that I had gained some weight. And I was hoping that it had just been a couple of pounds instead of 7 pounds. And the reason why I thought I might be gaining weight is because I haven't been weighing and measuring my food. I've been guessing my portions, and usually I guess pretty closely. Because sometimes I'll do I'll guess and then I'll actually weigh it and I'll be very close. So I didn't understand quite why I was gaining weight. And I thought, well, maybe I'm just gaining a little weight, and that's why I got on the scale.
And so you already had a mindset that you had gained weight and not lost weight,
Yes.
but you did not create anything. You didn't have any sort of safety net or any sort of plan to support you if that came up that you had gained weight, right? And so you wanted to be right and you wanted it to just be a couple of pounds, but you were wrong. And I think that you couldn't accept that where things were, right?
Mhm.
It's like I can't
Mhm.
accept that so earlier in the conversation you said, well, I've been doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. But now you just said, but I'm not weighing my food and measuring my food. So are you supposed to be weighing and measuring your food?
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing it. I mean, it's a way for me to keep checks and balances on myself. And so I go through periods where I weigh it and then periods where I don't. But I do best when I weigh and measure my food. And I think a lot of that's because not only when I'm in a mindset where I'm weighing and measuring my food, I tend to be in a mindset where I'm, doing my walking and doing, I'm like what I call on the beam, where I'm on the beam and everything is, doing what I'm supposed to do to support that. So, but like I said, most of the time I'm pretty close in the amount with the weighing and the measuring. So I don't know. I would say that for the see, now you're getting, I'm fudging on words, and words are so important. But it still didn't account for the extra weight. I don't know where the extra weight came from. Even if it had been 2 pounds instead of 7, I still wasn't understanding where that was coming from. But we've talked about this before, how it'll be like, you're not losing weight, you're doing everything right, and then you'll have a big weight loss because that's just the way it goes. So
Well,
I just wasn't patient enough, and I wasn't accepting of what was going on, like you said.
so what about because you said that I think it was earlier that week, you told me a story about Jeff putting 90 extra pounds on your weightlifting that you were doing.
Hmm.
When was that?
That was like at the beginning of the week or the week before, the end of the week before.
Because I mean, I don't know the physiology of it, but my guess would be I know that if you increase weight, you increase muscle generally, right? And
Right.
muscle weighs more than fat. So if you have increased muscle on your body, it is going to add weight to you. And if you're not at the same time losing, if you're not burning the fat as your energy source, then the balance is going to be you're going to end up gaining weight, but it's not fat that you're gaining, it's muscle that you're gaining. And so I would say maybe what happens sometimes for you is that you gain the muscle and then it takes a while. Now that you have extra muscle, your extra muscle is using extra calorie, it's burning extra energy,
Hmm.
right? More,
Hmm.
if you have more muscle, you need more energy to maintain your body at the weight that your body is, and that's what they call homeostasis, and that's what your body tends to do. Um, so it could be because of the added weight that he did or the added exercise that you're doing. Um, and I don't know what the answer is, but I'm just questioning when you go in and you start the morning with weighing yourself and thinking you're weighing yourself to see how much weight I've gained. Oh my gosh, I look heavy. Let me see how much weight I've gained. Like, oh my gosh, I look at myself in this video today. I'm like, oh, I look heavier than I did before. So, could be the angle of the camera, or I don't know what, but something made you think that you were heavier. And then and it could be the whole clothing thing. If you started to take those clothes off, the heavier clothes, the double X to the single X, that could be just a visual of you.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I would just say if you are setting yourself up in a situation that is going to be charged and something that is possibly going to make you feel overwhelmed and unable to deal with the results of it, you need to, before you even take that first step, you need to know, before you take that first step up the high dive, you need to know there's water in the pool.
Yeah.
Or before you grab onto the trapeze bar, you need to know that there's a safety net down there. Because otherwise, don't get on that, on that high dive.
Right. Right. So
It's
the
not going to
scale is
end well.
gone. The scale is gone, and there's really no reason for being on that scale at any other time, because I do check in with Jeff every 2 weeks and we get on the scale and we pinch my fat and we measure my inches, and you can tell that, and my body fat's gone from 46.6 to 39 to 31, I think 31. So I'm sure on the next one it'll be down even a little more. Well, who knows with this binging I've been doing.
Well,
But I understand what you're saying about the water and making sure, so before I do, a behavior, before I do an action, thinking about what the potential consequences could be one way or the other, the potential outcome is something that could help support myself better.
yeah, and I would say I think the whole thing with telling your friend you were going to make her food and she chose lasagna, is that how it turned out? Right? I mean, you said I could make you some food, and she said, "Oh, I'd really like lasagna." Right?
Right,
You didn't say, "Hey, I could make you some chicken soup. I'll bring it over." Right?
right.
So I think learning from that experience, because this transition into the lifestyle, if that was something that you really think was a trigger and that you resented, then I would say there are a couple of ways that you could have handled it that would have been a little more effective. And that was when she said lasagna, say no. I mean, I totally get she's in pain and you want to help her and you don't want to tell her no.
Yes.
I deal the same way with my mother all the time. I want to make my mother happy because her life is miserable. So if I can bring a little happiness to it, I'd like to do that, right? That's what you wanted to do with your friend. I
Right.
just I just would have recommended, first of all, we have a great keto lasagna recipe that you could have made for her, provided she doesn't have anything against keto, although that too is labor intensive. But I don't think she ever would have known the difference. Like, I mean, just that you might, if she says she is low fat, you don't want to necessarily make somebody something that, it's like somebody saying they're an alcoholic, and you're like, well, they won't notice that I put vodka in the, in the spaghetti sauce. So you don't necessarily want to do that to her. But if she doesn't have anything against keto, then you could make her the keto lasagna, or you could have just gone and bought the lasagna from a restaurant, right? That would have been the easiest. Find the Olive Garden and go buy their lasagna. And you could have just said, you know what, I'm sorry. I know I was going to make you homemade lasagna, but, it was just a struggle. But I knew that you had your heart set on lasagna, so I did the next best thing and got you Olive Garden.
Yeah, right. I didn't really have a hard time making the lasagna for her because I knew that that's what she wanted, and there was a particular recipe that she wanted that was relatively easy to do. And I did call them and say, I can't bring it over tonight. I'll bring it over tomorrow. So that's the way that I managed that. And I understand that I could have had tighter boundaries around it and looking at that.
But you
It
listed
didn't
that.
really bother me that much. And, looking at myself in the mirror didn't really bother me that much because I knew that I had dropped down a size, and being on the scale didn't really bother me that much because I knew that, your weight fluctuates up and down. But it was when you put all three together within a couple of hours, that's where I didn't manage it all well.
I don't know. I find that a hard story to swallow,
Okay.
because if you're telling me now, it's like, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. If none of them were that big of a deal, how did it lead to a binge?
Because they all happened so quickly in a row. And it just stacked one on top of the other on top of the other that I didn't handle in a healthy self-talk way.
Was there anything else that was happening that day that could have been a trigger?
Well, I'm out of sorts. It's Thanksgiving and, I have to go be with my sister and my mother together. And, there's things like that going on. But so I felt, and, the gym's closed on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So normally I go to the gym on those days. So I knew I wasn't going to be doing that. So I was out of my regular schedule. That was the only other thing I could think of.
And what was the sneaking aspect of the binge?
There's a lot of sneakiness around most of my binges, but I didn't really feel really sneaky around this one. I felt more like I wanted relief.
So is there something that you can say you wanted the relief from?
Well, I think I just wanted relief from the things. There's negative feelings. I've been thinking about this. So there's negative feelings that will come up. And feelings for me are hard to deal with. I tend to eat my feelings away. And now that I'm not dealing with that, my feelings come up and I'm trying to learn healthier ways to deal with them. So when feelings come up like happiness and joy and contentment and success and, those things I deal with pretty easily. But when things come up like discouragement, surprises, what's the word that you use? Deprivation, where I feel deprived. When those kinds of things come up, that's where I just don't handle them as well yet.
And do you have a commitment to keeping a food journal?
Yes, I do have a commitment to that. And generally, I'm very good with my food journal, and I have not been good with my food journal probably over the last week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks. And that's unusual for me.
Yeah, and I would say that might be part of what that lack of integrity or that
Mhm.
inconsistency it might be your sneakiness. But I totally agree. You did not describe this binge as you've described other ones where there is a level of sneakiness.
Yeah.
It maybe it's a more stealthy sneakiness, right? Maybe it's a, oh, I'll get to my food journal tomorrow, or I'll do it tomorrow, and then it's like, oh, well, that might be what triggered you to think I might be gaining a little weight because I haven't been keeping. You don't know what you've been putting in your mouth because you're not keeping your food journal.
Mhm.
You have a good idea, right? But it's like, oh, but I did this and I did that and I did this, and all of a sudden there's quite a few things that um, could be leading you astray. Um, but the past binges you've said you've looked at, or the one that you avoided, you said you looked at it and you walked it all the way to the end of the road and you said, that's not where I want to go. And so you didn't do it. Was there an opportunity to do that here or no? I mean,
Yeah, there was opportunity to do that, and I chose not to do that because I think that, um, once I make the decision that I'm going to do it, the only time that I've never not done it was that last time that I videoed that I avoided it.
yeah.
Once a decision is made, it's very, very often set. But I know it's possible to walk myself out of it because I did in the past. So there's an opportunity for me. And as I'm going to do the binge, right, you have to go buy the food. You have to, it takes time, right? So there are, like when I say that I have a hard time remembering what was going on with my thoughts in my head, I think that some of those thoughts were, you could follow this all the way through and realize that, this is not going to be something beneficial for you. But at that point in time, I don't care.
See, I don't consider my behavior binging behavior. But if I did, like for me, because I'm so lazy, I would go to Oberweis and instead of having one regular chocolate malt with extra malt, I would have three, right? And I'm pretty sure like the first one is like 2,000 calories, which is more calories than I usually eat in a day. So let alone, just as one little snack. And I know that I'm addicted to sugar. I've gone over that here, before in the videos. So it would not be hard for me to drink two or three chocolate malts with extra malts. So why is it that you don't just go to the grocery store and just buy a lot and do that? Why is it that you go to the grocery store and then a fast food restaurant and then somewhere else sometimes after that?
That mostly has to do with punishing myself because by then I'm feeling so badly about what I've done and I have shame and guilt start to settle in. And then, so in order to justify the shame and guilt, I'll make sure that I eat a lot of food that will keep myself heavy.
See, I don't think that does not ring true to me either.
No, that doesn't ring true to me either now that it's come out of my mouth.
Because you get great pleasure in eating that food.
Yes, I do. I do. And I have to say that it's a little hard for me to share with people what's going on now because it feels different now. It feels different than some of the binges I've done in the past where I've really beaten myself up and ingested enormous amounts of food to the point where I couldn't get up off the couch. Things like that. It's different now. They're not as severe. But I don't know. Part of me almost feels like if I'm going to go ahead and do it, I might as well do it big.
Well, I mean, technically, right? If you're going to go off plan, it does seem to make sense that all the calories and all of the eating is done in one day or 2 days, right? And then you can get back on the wagon after Thanksgiving, right? So the fact that Thanksgiving was the next day and you already had plans to go off plan. And so I think that that's one thing. First, like if you have a holiday coming up or a celebration coming up, like your sister's birthday, and I mean, 9 times out of 10, somebody's going to have a cake or some sort of sweet food to celebrate somebody's birthday. And if you don't eat sugar, then that's a quandary. Unless you say, I'm not going to eat the cake, right? If you say, I'm not going to eat the cake, it's not a quandary. But if
Right.
you're contemplating eating the cake, then it's inconsistent with what you've chosen to be in your life, which is not sugar-free. So then the question is, have you chosen to be not sugar-free except for holidays and celebrations? Because that could be a choice.
Right. And no, that would not be my choice, because then there's this slippery slope that comes.
Okay, so I would say, though, that it is a choice, because I did ask you what you were going to do on Thanksgiving, and you said you were going to have a couple of bites of
Well, yes,
cake.
it has been a choice, but moving forward after being through all this whole ordeal, I don't want that to be my choice.
Yeah, so I
What I'd
think,
rather do is put a little handful of blueberries in a baggie and bring those in my purse, and that will be my dessert.
yeah, yeah. Or learn a different way of celebrating, right? Like, you don't have to have a dessert. You can have your berries before you leave, right? You don't have to carry them with you and bring them to the um or because that's a question, right? Like, do you want people to know that you have this special requirement? Do you want people to know that you're special and that you don't share in their cake, you are going to share in your own blueberries? Do you want people to know, to say, congratulations, Cammy, you're so strong, you can do that? Is that something you're looking for? And that could be a subconscious desire on your part, right? You want the acknowledgement that you're doing a good job.
Yeah, no, I don't know. With my family, I don't feel that way, because my family's very supporting and accepting no matter what I do. Although, except I have to take a stand for myself when it comes to no sugar.
Yeah.
Because they'll
And
say, well,
so,
you can just have a small piece of cake. But if I say, no, I cannot have a small piece of cake, I'm going to eat these blueberries instead, they would say, okay.
yeah. And so my question is there strength more in eating the blueberries with them and in front of them, or is there more strength in not eating them at all? And I'm not saying that, that has to be your choice. I mean, it has to be your choice, but it's your choice. It's not, there's not like one way, a good way or a bad way. It's just what supports you better. Is it that if you eat those berries beforehand and you don't feel deprived because you enjoyed that, and you didn't feel like, oh, they got cake, but I got berries, when you're actually in front of them? I mean, play with that and see how
Yeah.
that shows up for
Yeah.
you.
No, it's after I eat, you know, after I eat, I want something sweet. And we talked about that in my video about brushing your teeth and how that can sometimes help me not want that something sweet. And the other thing I've noticed is that if I eat 2 macadamia nuts, those are sweet enough for me. So sometimes after my meal, I'll eat 2 macadamia nuts, nice, good size of macadamia nuts, and that'll be enough for me.
Yeah.
But, I like it to come after the meal because I want something sweet.
And my mother is the same way, so I totally understand where you're coming from. Um, do you carry macadamia nuts in your purse?
Yes.
And do you carry a travel toothbrush in your purse?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I would throw that in there just so you have, that's a tool, right?
That's a
That's a
great
support.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the things that can help you are like always having a pattern, a ritual, right? You finish your meal, you've done a good job. Excuse yourself from the table to go to the bathroom so that you can go brush your teeth,
Yeah, that's excellent.
and just do that all the time. You'll be known as the woman who, when she finishes her meal, she goes to the bathroom. I mean, 9 times out of 10, that's me anyway, but that I'm probably you too, because you drink a lot of water.
Yeah,
Um, so that can be something that supports you, that's easy, right? That doesn't, it's totally self-reliance for you.
perfect.
Um, and and I would just look at the anatomy of a binge for you. Look at the the Jack in the Box. So let's go to the Jack in the Box. Well, let's go to the grocery store first. So you went to the grocery store and you got all the fixings to make the lasagna, but you didn't get the Binge fixings, right? So did you go make the lasagna and then go back to the store, or did you just go home, drop off the groceries, and go, oh, I'm going to go back and get that
I
stuff?
can't remember what I did. I can't remember the sequence of events that happened because I remember that I needed to take a shower and wash my hair and do all that. And somewhere in there, I did that. I don't remember specifically how I went where, but something happened in between going to the grocery store and getting the ingredients for the lasagna and going to the grocery store to get the Binge food. Something must have happened there because otherwise I would have just got the Binge food when I got the lasagna food.
Yeah, so that would be a good place to start investigating, right? Like rebuilding the case to see what was it, because you left the grocery store. That was the Vaughn's. It's right by your house.
Yeah,
And then is that where you went and got, because what the Binge food, I wrote down ice cream, bread, and cookies. Are those
yeah,
all things that you had to go buy because you didn't have them?
correct. Yeah, the house doesn't have that in it.
Okay, and so was your plan, and is your plan generally you're not going to bring it into the house, you're just going to eat it so that you don't have any more tempting food when you get into the house? Or how does it work?
Well, no, well, I brought food in. I brought the bread into the house, and
Was the
that's why the next day I ate the bread with the
was
cheese.
was the bread for the lasagna too, or no?
No,
Okay.
yeah, so I don't remember.
And what about the ice cream and the cookies and the banana cake, banana cream pie or whatever?
Those all went out of the house today. Those all went out this morning.
And did
So
you eat it?
they were here yesterday, but I didn't eat them yesterday, but they went out this morning.
Okay, so today's Saturday. Did you eat them on Thursday?
Yeah, yes, I think I did.
So I would say maybe part of the sneaky was maybe thinking that you're kind of um, riding on the coattails of Thanksgiving, right? Like, somebody's going to know that, you can't be expected to stay on plan during Thanksgiving. So,
Well, no, you can. I mean, you can,
all right,
you
I'm just
can.
saying.
You can. And, there's Christmas coming up and, New Year's and,
Well,
there's life. Life happens.
and that's why I really want to spend time on this with you, because I want to make Christmas a very Merry Christmas for you. And I don't want you to be going, oh, shoot, I'm now, I was 230 and now I'm 238. I'm going to go, and tomorrow's Christmas. So I'm going to go, eat a ton of food.
Right. I
Right.
understand.
Yeah. So I want to say, let's look at what it is. Um, but that's what I'm saying is, in your mind, you could be thinking, well, tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and I know I'm not going to be on plan on Thanksgiving because you had already told me you weren't. You already told me you were going to have mashed potatoes and cake, right?
Yeah. Well, I said maybe. So that leaves the door open to say no.
But not really for you when you make a plan. And this gets back down to the written food plan, right? This
Yeah.
is
And
where's the written.
I think that's a key thing to learn here because when I keep a food plan, I do better. And it's not that hard for me to keep a food plan. For initially, it was very, very hard to do. It's
Yeah,
very hard to do. And now it just isn't hard for me to do.
yeah. So, and I would recommend that for Christmas time, really spend time making not just the Christmas Day decision, make a few days in advance and a few days afterwards.
Yeah,
That,
I think
you
that's
know,
excellent.
this is what my plan is. Um, and then, it's A, you can see if you're sticking to it, and B, it's just the way to transition, because, that next Thanksgiving won't be like this Thanksgiving, right? It's just not going to happen that way. You've learned, like you said, these are coming a lot fewer, and they're still very different, Cammy. I didn't hear anything about Skittles or any candy. Did you have any candy involved?
No, I did not.
Yeah, and so I would look at that as a score, as a big win because the ice
Yeah, because
cream,
that's usually how it ends.
yeah.
Yeah. So, all right.
So
Well, can we kind of summarize, sum up? And I got my kitty
no,
here ready to.
no, I want to go over. I still want to go over the Jack in the Box
Okay.
because I do. I mean, that's where my bad food eating is. It comes in ordering in fast food, and I totally get. My secret is, I drink my extra malt, my malt with extra malt in the car. And whatever I don't drink in the car goes in the garbage. And I definitely have times when I'm like, oh, I better suck this down right now because otherwise it's going to be in the garbage in a minute. Versus, oh, I'll go to my storage locker first and then I can drink a little more because it takes a lot longer to, go to the storage locker and stuff. So my question for you is, how is it, because the food that you ordered at Jack in the Box, would you have called that your meal for the day because you weren't on plan? I mean, or was that you already ate your plan and you are going to then add additional food to it?
No, I don't have meal plans or anything when I'm in the middle of a binge. It was just
No,
part of my binge.
but you have plans like let's say your plan was to have salmon that day. So did you have the salmon for lunch and then go, oh, but I'm binging, so I'm going to go get my Jack in the Box
Well, I
meal?
wasn't keeping a food diary, so I really had no plans for that day. That's part of the problem that could have potentially be setting me up for a binge.
Well, but so my question is, was this your planned food for the day? Right? It's like I need to have a meal that's not sugar, right? I need to have my lunch, so I'm going to go to Jack in the Box for lunch. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Oh. Um, yeah, I guess you could look at it that way. I mean, when I am in the middle of a binge, I just eat whatever I feel like eating. Sometimes it's just ice cream and cookies and candy and cake. Sometimes there's a fast food meal in there. It just kind of depends on whatever I feel like I'm going to go eat.
Yeah. And you also didn't go to McDonald's for this one.
No, because I wanted curly fries and they don't have curly fries.
Okay, so yeah, so that's why I would say it's not guilt and shame and everything because you wanted curly fries. That's not a way of punishing yourself. That's a way of rewarding yourself.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's how I know that my binges have kind of changed in the way that they play out.
Yeah. So you have the Jack in the Box, and it was a combo meal and what?
Yeah, it was a jumbo jack with cheese. I really wanted a junior jumbo jack with cheese combo meal, but they didn't have that.
Okay, well,
So
why did you really want the junior and not the
because
jumbo?
I wasn't that hungry, I'm just eating this food and I'm not even really hungry by then because I had already been eating the banana cake and the banana pie thing and some cookies and the things I had bought at Vaughn's.
But you've told me before it doesn't matter whether you're hungry or not.
Right, which is why I was there because I really wasn't hungry, but I just usually buy the smaller one when I
Okay,
would.
so would you say the smaller one is a binge food or no?
Yeah,
Okay. Because a lot of people who do the carnivore diet, they do go to McDonald's a lot, but what they do is they get like 4 sandwiches and just no bread, just the meat and
yeah,
the
no, there's bread and carbs and sugar in there, so
yeah.
yeah,
Okay. And so that came with fries and a Diet Coke.
right.
And you had a funny comment about the Diet Coke because you said that's a trigger for you, but you had already had ice cream, cake, and cookies, so I'm not sure you needed any further trigger.
Yeah, but the Diet Coke can trigger me for like 4 or 5 days. The
Yeah,
Diet
and
Coke, whatever it has in there, just makes me want it for like, that's why I'm really surprised I'm not craving it now. But
yeah. All right.
Yeah, so I got about 5 or 10 more minutes here, and then I gotta go. I just
Okay. And so what about the any like malt or anything from or shake or anything from Jack in the Box?
no, no, because I had ice cream.
And did you eat the curly fries?
Yes,
Okay. So that's another kind of difference in the binge because normally if you do go through the fast food, you usually get a shake, even if you've had ice cream and cake and cookies and
right,
Skittles.
right.
So that
Yeah.
is a little change. I mean, I would say volume wise, it's probably very reduced.
Yes, I agree.
And did you have the comatose feeling afterwards or no?
Yes, I did, and I slept. Although I have to say that when I woke up the next day, I was tired and didn't feel a lot of energy, um, but I didn't feel as hungover as I did from the last binge I had done, where I felt like I had drank a lot of alcohol and I was
Yeah.
nauseous and tired and a headache and just felt so bad. That didn't happen this time. So, maybe the volume was reduced.
Well, and maybe your body is adapting to not having a binge every week, right? I mean, your body maybe is just more resilient right now because you've overall been very healthy eating since October 24th.
Right.
Yeah. I mean that could just be it's just, and don't beat yourself up about the binge either, Cammy, because binge eating was part of your lifestyle before.
Right. Yeah.
Compulsive eating or whatever, so that, it's a transition to get out of that, right? It's a transition into the new, but you have to transition out of the old habits.
Yes, so I can see myself in a time where I would just not be on plan and maybe I would eat one or two things that were off my plan, but not go into these full on binges. Yeah, I just pray that it's close by
Yeah.
because I'm feeling like it is.
Yeah. All right. So what are you going to do differently between now and Christmas to avoid a Christmas binge or any binge in between?
Oh, this is a great question. I'm going to keep my food diary. Um, the other thing I'm trying to do really desperately is work on a meal plan, and I'm still having a very hard time with that. But I think I can start little with that. And so, what I'd like to do is the night before plan my meal for the next day. And
Hmm.
don't be so stressed out about planning my meal for the next 3 or 4 or 5 days. But start out with just the night before, plan my meal for the next day, look at the food that I have available. That way I know if I need to pull something out of the freezer or not. Maybe if I do 2 days in advance, I could know because you have to pull food out for, let it thaw a little bit. But maybe keep the next 1 or 2 days in mind for a meal plan. And that's what I did today. I have a meal plan here for today. And so, food diary, food plan, continue to go to sugar support groups for pulling off of that. And make a commitment to myself if the gym is closed, what I'm going to do instead of, and go ahead and get that done. And don't be so critical about how much walking I need to do. Just get out and walk.
Yeah.
Things like that
Yeah.
for the
Good.
exercise.
Excellent. Excellent. So I don't know if it's because we're on this channel or what, but I do know that I said I was going to give up diet soda at the end of September, and I'm still drinking it because now I have in my mind I'll give it up in December at the end of the year.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, for sure, I got to give it up by the end of the year. Maybe I could give it up by November because I feel horrible when I drink it. I drink over, I think I drink over 100 ounces of soda a day.
Oh, Karen, I didn't realize it was that much.
I think so. I really do. I drink two 16-ounce bottles, and I think I drink two, well, maybe it's not quite that much, two 32 ounces or something, 60. I mean, it's close to 100. I just can't stop drinking it. It's
Yeah,
just like what
that's
you
why
said
I'm
about
really
it's
glad I'm not, it's like smoking. It's
it
like
is. It's
smoking. And, studies have shown with that, at least, that the more times you try, the more, you will stop. It's just a matter of
yeah.
time. I mean, for you, you might be able to do a wean over a week or two or something.
Yeah, because now I'm beginning to have the fear of what it's going to do as far as caffeine withdrawal. And I don't even think it's just caffeine withdrawal. I think there's got to be some sort of connection to the withdrawal of the carbonation and the aspartame, the chemical itself.
Right. Yeah, I found out that that stuff is in the sodas I was buying from Aldi. The naturally flavored sparkling
Hmm.
water had aspartame in it. And so now I'm off of those, and I have all these lovely little bubbly flavored little bottles to pour into my SodaStream carbonated water, and I'm not using those either. So it, I'm just drinking carbonated water that's not flavored, and I thought I would hate it. And I've really enjoyed it. So that
Hmm.
might be something that you could try to transition over to, so that you still get the carbonation.
Yeah. And I've even thought of maybe I should buy some caffeine pills just to switch to go, okay, well, you don't have to be worry about the caffeine. You can rely on a caffeine pill to give you your caffeine. Don't worry about giving up the soda. You know what I mean? So, there's ways of getting around it if you really want to do it.
Yeah, well, and you might be surprised at how well you'll be able to do. Mike Collins with his sugaraddiction.com group recommends that you pull off the caffeine first
Hmm.
and then you pull off the sugar, because you might need a little bit of that sweetness um, to get yourself off of the caffeine.
Yeah.
So, I would encourage you to just kind of keep that in mind as you're dealing with how you're going to kind of
Yeah.
slowly get off things.
All right.
It's progress, not perfection.
That's right. All right. I will commit to not buying any more soda at the grocery store.
To bring to the house.
Yeah. Yeah. To
Okay.
have in the fridge. I don't think I have very much left. I think the last time I was feeling, like I needed my fix. And so I ordered a thing from a Walmart delivery to, have them deliver my Diet Coke. All right. So
All
we will
right.
we will post this and then we'll move on to doing something maybe in another day or so.
Yeah, I want to talk about the scale. That was,
Yeah.
in some ways I really do. I really am grieving that loss, and it really was my friend in the way that I think about it is that in some ways, as I was losing weight, in between my kids or in the past, it was my friend. So we could talk about that.
All right. Sounds good. Love
All
you.
right.
Thanks,
Take
everybody.
care.
If you like it, subscribe or whatever, like,
Send us
subscribe,
comments. Thank
yeah,
you.
comment.
Take
Bye.
care.